Hello everyone, I thought I'd do a quick vlog here as Martin McKenna, and I'd just like to start off by saying thank you very much for watching my YouTube channel, which I appreciate very much. There's been a lot of very positive comments in recent times to do with the drone videos and the other footage, the time-lapse footage. So I really appreciate your support, appreciate you checking in. I'm glad so many of you enjoy the vlogs and my other content and the ship videos. Really much appreciated, so thank you. So, well, just off topic slightly, but if you've seen my last short video clip about the new gear, I just wanted to thank Connor, a good mate of mine for many years, for sending me over a surprise gift in the post, which was an external microphone for my Canon 5D Mark IV, and this light stand, a photographer light stand. Normally when I'm in the sunroom I need to turn on all the lights and direct them towards me to even see me on the video here. But this light stand's that good. I've turned off all the lights, it's dark, except for one side light, and I have this stand up illuminating me from the side here, and a soft light. I could make it brighter if I want, but I'm content with this light at the minute. So it's handy for filming vlogs, and I can move it around to different positions, I can angle it, plugs into the mains. It's really cool. A very intense bulb on it, and you have a sheet that comes down over the top which mutes that intensity, so the light is softer, more gentle, you know, so it's really cool. So I'm going to use it more often for these kind of things to help illuminate objects and, you know, anything I'm talking about in the video. So anyway, thank you Connor very much for that. I appreciate that unexpected gift. It was really nice. And for those of you who don't know me or know Connor, rather, and you should do if you know me, it depends how far back you go. If you've been following me since the days of IFAS, EAS, UK Weather World, things like that, then you'll know Connor. Connor and I go back a long way, and we've been involved in those forums and groups for a long time. And Connor at the minute, he does a lot of travelling and exploring around the world and all, so sometimes he's not here for months or maybe even years, and the minute he's away again. So I haven't heard from him for a while, and suddenly I just get these presents through the door and a surprise phone call today, so that was really nice to get to hear Connor again and have a quick catch up over the phone about the good old days and the adventures we had. So that was really nice. It was interesting because I was actually reviewing a lot of stuff about our chases and our photography shoots and our observing sessions from years ago. I was thinking about them a lot recently in the last few weeks, actually doing some Google searching to see if I brought up any of those photographs or memories, and Connor told me he was doing the exact same thing, so that was pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, Connor is responsible for getting me interested in storm chasing and photography, so you can blame him for that. Actually, very positive, because that changed my life in a totally positive way. You've heard the story before. I've mentioned in one of my earlier vlogs at the start of lockdown about how I got interested in the night sky and storm chasing, and that story's mentioned in it. But for a quick overcap, for those who don't know, Connor was my next door neighbour. We grew up together for years, and I used to have my telescope in the back garden observing every single clear night. My 16-inch Meade Starfinder Dobsonian, with an 8x50 finder on a Telrad, that's beside the point. And I used to search for comets every single clear night and observe through it every night. And Connor would appear on his wall next door, this tall wall around his house, and he used to come over with a brew, as he called it, a cup of tea, hot brew, come out at night time. He'd see me out the back, he'd jump off this wall onto the ground and climb over the wooden fence. We had this tall wooden fence between the two houses, but there's a couple of planks missing, so you could actually put your foot in it and slip through into the next person's garden. So Connor would come through with a brew and strike up some casual conversation, and we'd begin looking at the stars together. He'd be talking, sipping the brew, I'd be searching for comets, and the conversation would be thrown back and forth. So that's how we kind of met, really, I believe, through the stars. So we'd have these conversations, and we'd be doing this for weeks and weeks, and we'd get more used to each other, you know, and it became a nightly ritual. It'd be strange for me to be observing and Connor didn't appear at some point. It could be early in the evening, it could be 10 o'clock at night, or it could be 3 AM. But I'd hear from him at some stage, and we'd be over it. He would do naked eye observing while I observed with the telescope, and he would observe things with the telescope too. I mean, strike up this relationship, mutual respect for the night sky. The sky was so good back then. I mean, it really was a darn good sky we had in Mahara. Very dark. I remember at one stage we actually seen Messier 81, Galaxy Messier 81 with the naked eye from our location. Confirmed, no problem. And that galaxy, I think, is around nearly 7th magnitude or so. That's pretty good going for an extended object. So I think that's the faintest object I've ever seen with the naked eye. That's a testament to how good the sky was back then. But anyway, Connor and I would put in a lot of hours observing. But during the course of this period, Connor had a big interest in the weather, you see. And particular convective weather, thunderstorms, severe wind events, big snowstorms, tornadoes, funnel clouds, you name it. And he would talk to me while I was observing through the eyepiece about all these storms coming. There's a great chance of storms tomorrow, could be 100 mph winds, big low pressure system, chance of tornadoes tomorrow. And Connor would talk about this very enthusiastically. And it used to irritate me somewhat at the time, of course, because even though I found this stuff fascinating, and I tried to hide that fascination because I knew I could get into that in a big way. I couldn't have the energy for it because I had so much energy focused on astronomy. But that was me lying to myself, you see, trying to cover the whole thing up and stop taking down that path. But Connor went on about it, and it just annoyed me because why was Connor wishing there was clouds when I needed to be clear to observe, you know? So there was just a bit of friction. But then my friction disappeared and I just relaxed and I listened. And Connor's voice was so enthusiastic, so passionate. He was excited, really excited about these things coming, these storms. That rubbed off on me. Next thing you know, I'm looking at these clouds as well. I'm looking for storms. Connor taught me about Mattis clouds, what whale's mouth structure looks like, what an anvil was in a thunderstorm, what a gust front was. I started to learn all these terminology. I learned convection. What's convection? Found out these clouds. Oh, that's convection. That's pretty cool. Next thing, he had his first camcorder, them high 8 camcorders, things about that size. We'd hike out the road. We couldn't drive, so we'd walk out the road in all weather conditions and start filming convection and thunderstorms, anything we could. And I had my first 1 million pixel digital camera, and I'd be doing the same thing. Back then, we actually did vlogs as well, before they were even called vlogs. We used to film each other talking into the camera. It was hilarious, actually, talking about the weather, doing these fake forecasts and stuff, you know. And we'd do night sky ones, pretend we're like on radio stations talking about the aurora and all this. So it was really, really good fun. But we used to hike out. I remember going to the middle of the river one time at Tuggermore, and Connor was filming a really good hailstorm from under the bridge, and with the sound of the hailstones hitting the bridge and the traffic and over, it was really, really noisy. The place was flooded, it was turned to mud. But I remember a lot of rumbles of thunder that day and seeing these beautiful white convective clouds bubbling up, these towers and the anvils coming out, and me snapping away with as much excitement as Connor. And we had this united calling together to capture these things on camera. So that's how it all began. And it became a big way. We out every single day to shoot weather phenomena, to practice the art of photography, if you want to call it that. We didn't see it as art at the time, we just saw it as documenting nature, you know, but we wanted to be tenacious at it and get everything we could on camera and learn about the sky at the same time. And that evolved onto in later years driving out. When we first learned how to drive, we started storm chasing then too. We took it to the next level, and that's when things really kicked off in a big way, and we've been doing it ever since. So Connor is responsible for that aspect of my life: the weather, photography, and storm chasing. Even now, in 2020, what must be at least 20 years later, so those days, still doing it. At the moment, I'm actually looking forward to a small chance of convection tomorrow, and possibly the weekend or next week there could be actual thunderstorms after a very long wait this year. So I'm excited about that, and that enthusiasm, that excitement has not waned for me or for Connor. It's amazing how something in the sky sticks with you no matter where you are in the world and what age you are or whatever you're doing in life. It's like a habit, and that's what I always say to people who are interested in the sky, whether it be astronomy or identifying cloud phenomena or the unusual atmospheric optics, or if you want to capture things on camera which are transient and rare. You have to have this enthusiasm, this passion, and it has to be part of your daily life. It's not something you just switch on and go, today I'm going to photograph a rainbow, or I'm going to photograph a shelf cloud. I hope to someday photograph a shelf cloud. That's not the way to do it. Excuse me, I think you're going to sneeze. You have to be on alert every single day. You have to have your gear, your batteries charged up, your camera set to daylight settings, which you normally would use for weather phenomena, sitting in your kit bag with you in your vehicle or in the house ready to grab all the time. You need to have your eyes on the sky all the time. Every time you leave the house, whether it be to go to work or go to the shop or go for a walk, You should be scanning the sky, checking the sky to see if there's anything unusual. That should become your daily habit all day, every day, and every time you're out at night as well. And by doing that, you learn to read the sky, you learn to look for things that other people miss, and if you keep doing it, you will see something special. And that's my philosophy anyway. You've got to be vigilant and observing and always ready for the next unexpected phenomena. So, and when it happens, and if you're fast enough and you know what you're looking at and you know how to work your camera quickly to adapt to the situation, and you get an image of that, it's a really cool feeling, that's for sure. It's a tremendous feeling of satisfaction. And a good example of that would be a funnel cloud. Funnel cloud is a rare phenomenon in Ireland. There's a number that happen every year, a small number. Some years are better than others, but they're not a common phenomenon at all. And to be at the right place at the right time to catch one, either by out walking or driving or chasing or by accident, it's quite a treat to get one on camera. To see one is magnificent. To get one on camera is a fantastic digital trophy and a real feather in the cap. Funnel clouds are among some of my most favourite phenomena. Funnel clouds, of course, are associated with tornadoes. They're the same kind of phenomena. By the way, for those who don't believe it, tornadoes do happen in Ireland, Northern Ireland. Tornadoes are a natural part of the climatology of this country. If you don't believe me, ask John Tyrrell from Cork University, who's head of Toro, or was head of Toro years ago. He'll tell you more about it. But tornadoes do happen in Northern Ireland, water spouts do happen, and funnel clouds happen every single year. It's worth keeping in mind though that funnel clouds can happen from different mechanisms. The most beautiful classic type of funnel cloud in Northern Ireland would be like kind of a non-severe event. It's more of a benign setup, but they produce the most photogenic funnel clouds, and that would be usually a sea breeze convergence zone. When that happens, for example, in prime summertime, you have these warm temperatures. You've enough humidity in the atmosphere for moisture to form. The moisture rises from solar heating of the ground. So as the air starts to rise, it cools. The air around it is cooler than the temperature of the air parcel. So that helps the air parcel continue to rise. And as it does, so it rises, it condenses, it becomes cooler, and it starts to form water vapour and it forms a cloud. The higher up it goes, the colder the atmosphere is aloft. As long as it's hot on the surface, that's a type of lifting mechanism, the air parcel will rise up and cool and condense into these vertical clouds, these convective clouds, or convection as we call them. They form heaps first, cumulus heaps, usually thin heaps like a shear, and they start to get a bit bigger. So they start to become taller than they are wide. Then when a proper updraft forms, it becomes these towering cumulus clouds, the storm chasers call them. They're tall, and they have this bulbous top on them like cauliflower. Those are called cumulus congestus. And in some cases, some chasers call them turkey towers. But updrafts, you can call them updrafts, you can call them towers, updraft towers, congestus, whatever you like. But that's the proper vertical extent of an updraft form in an atmosphere. If it continues to go up, if there's enough instability present and there's no capping inversion, you cold air aloft, enough lift from the solar heating or from other sources, then you get the cloud reaches the top of the atmosphere where the weather takes place. The weather takes place within different layers of the atmosphere. Sorry, there's different layers of the atmosphere of the Earth. All our weather happens within the lower part of the atmosphere called the troposphere. The ceiling of the troposphere is called the tropopause. Above that's the stratosphere, and beyond that you're getting into the mesosphere region where noctilucent clouds form and meteors burn up. But the tropopause, these clouds meet the tropopause, the temperature is different there, so they spread out the top of the updraft, and that forms this classic blacksmith's anvil shape, like the anvil a blacksmith would use. You see these massive clouds forming this anvil. That's your cumulonimbus, your thunderstorm. But it's worth keeping in mind for funnel cloud hunters, just as an offset, you don't have to have a thunderstorm to get a funnel cloud. Some of these cells are maybe not tall enough, they're not cold enough to loft, or the ice crystals in them just aren't clashing enough to cause lightning. Sometimes you get a quiet cell, and it's these shears or convective updrafts on these warm days which can produce funnel clouds, and very visible funnel clouds at that. So really what you're looking for is a day of good solar heating, enough instability to form a good updraft, and the key thing to keep in mind is a convergence zone. As I mentioned, the sea breeze convergence zone. On a classic summer's day, we may have a south or southwesterly flow across the land, so the moisture source is coming from the southwest, travelling up across Ireland, up into Northern Ireland. It gets heated the ground gets heated, and then you might have this other flow coming from a different direction, a different wind direction. Often that comes from it could be from the north, northwest, east, coming from the sea, so it's cooler and it's coming in over land, and these two wind directions meet or converge. It's called a convergence zone. That area where they meet is a place where updrafts are encouraged, where clouds can suddenly develop vertically. It's like a lifting mechanism, a source of help, a source of lift. So combined with solar heating with these convergence zones, you get that's an area of focused concentration where updrafts can form. It's also an area where vorticity can happen, funnel clouds can happen. If you have an updraft forming in a convergence zone, the winds are coming from two different directions. So that there may actually induce a spin, and that can cause rotation, can cause a funnel cloud, cause these beautiful white or black or grey funnel clouds which hang from a very clear base of these updrafts, and highly visible and extremely photogenic. So they're often the ones you want to catch. Usually if there's too much rain falling out of the sail, the chances are it's past its stage of interest and the funnel can't form because the rain, the cool air from the rain is choking the updraft, and you won't get a funnel cloud, or the funnel cloud may be embedded within the rain. So you want to catch these sails early in the day as they're bubbling up onto towers and young cumulonimbus before they become mature thunderstorms, and especially before they come out flow dominant. So that's a good setup for funnel clouds. And our setup is obviously strong vertical wind shear. If you strong speed shear, as it's called, the wind changes with height in the atmosphere. That's called shear. Another way of getting a funnel cloud or a tornado is from strong shear. Shear is very important for thunderstorms. It's very important for organised thunderstorms and for severe thunderstorms, and in particular for trying to get rotation going, funnel clouds and tornadoes. Speed shear, wind shear, speed shear. Speed shear is whenever the wind changes with height throughout the atmosphere. If you look at the surface, above the surface, the winds could be slack. Say it could be 5 knots. The mid part of the atmosphere, the wind could be 20 knots. Top of the atmosphere, the tropopause, it could be going 40 or 50 knots. That's an increase of wind speed with height. It's called speed shear. And if you get an updraft, we talked about the updraft, the towering cumulus clouds building up, trying to form in this anvil into a thunderstorm. You get this updraft going up, it's not going to go up straight. If you've no wind shear at all, okay, it's a day where the storms won't be organised. These type of storms are called popcorn storms or garden variety thunderstorms. You get this updraft going up, it eventually condenses, starts to rain, the rain falls back down through the updraft and kills the developing sail, because the sail can't breathe in warm inflow from the surface anymore, because the falling rain cools it down and kills it off. It sort of chokes itself, so it can't breathe. So it has a limited life cycle, maybe 20, 30, 40 minutes if you're lucky, and then it dissipates. But if you vertical wind shear, speed shear, the updraft goes up and it becomes tilted. It's in a tilted aspect like this. So as it meets these stronger winds aloft, it becomes tilted over, and then the rain falls out of the updraft here, and the rain is separated from the base. So you get this area of inflow and outflow separated from each other. So the storm can live longer, it can breathe and cycle and have a longer life cycle, and that increases your chance of organisation and severity. These kind of storms, as long as they have sufficient fuel, sufficient heating, or the shear is present, the cape is present, then those storms can go on for maybe an hour, 2 hours, in some cases even more in rare situations. But that's the kind of storm that may produce a strong tornado. Strong shear combined with directional shear. This is the key component here. Before I say that, if you strong shear, your storm transitions from a single cell storm into a multi-cell storm. If you get shear around the 20 knot range or more, you're talking multi-cells or squall lines, line convection. If you're in the 40 knot plus range, you're in the realm of supercell organisation. So add to that directional shear. Directional shear is a change in wind direction with height. Previously we talked about the wind changing in height, changing with speed. Changing in speed with height. That's called speed shear. Now we're talking about directional shears. The wind's changing direction with height. So at the surface you may have a wind coming from the south. The middle of the atmosphere, the wind could be coming from, say, the southwest, and higher up in the atmosphere it's coming from the west. So you have this corkscrew. So the ones changing by height will actually rotate the updraft. So you have the organised tilted updraft, you have the directional shear, you gotta have rotation, you gotta have this organised updraft rotating, and that's the key component of a supercell thunderstorm. That rotating updraft is called a mesocyclone, or meso for short. So that's your different types of thunderstorms, and that's how you get your different phenomena, your funnel clouds and your tornadoes. It's all down to the atmospheric ingredients. Part of the terrain as well as a role to play in it. The topography of the land has a big role to play in, especially in this country, and of course the presence of wind shear. So this was why Connor and I love thunderstorms. There's a big science behind it, there's a lot of logic behind it. There's also a massive area of mystery and beauty, and there's as much art as science. Finding a storm, getting on the right storm, photographing, documenting it, and getting the storm of the day which produces the goods, and it has to be photogenic. On understanding the mechanisms which cause storms to form in the first place, the synoptic forecast, I find fascinating. We've always found this fascinating. Some days prior to a big event in this country, and in this country, when I say big, I mean talking 2,000 cape or more, which is, you're lucky to get that once a year. We may be on the phone or talking through Facebook for hours, for days before that, and on the night before we're literally ringing each other, talking about the details of the cape and the lifted index and the shear and with the precip going for we're talking in extreme detail about where these storms could fire, what to expect and where we're going to be. It's exciting, trying to figure out what Mother Nature's going to do, and then being there on the day, trying to get on that storm is thrilling stuff. I love it. It's something you can't. It's a highly rewarding and highly brutal as well, if you know what I mean. You have to learn to take disappointments. Storms will fire in places you don't even expect them to. They will sometimes defy the models and fire storms somewhere else where the models don't even show. Sometimes no storms are fired at all, or the ingredients are absolutely perfect for the best day of your life, and something as simple as an overcast sky will kill the entire day because there's no solar heating. There's so many, I think there's at least 9 ingredients or parameters which have to come together to even get a rumble of thunder, and it's amazing how if one of those ingredients is missing, you won't get it. So it's a game of chess with the atmosphere, and you never know what you're going to see. So that's why I love it, that's why we love it, and that's why it continues to be a very strong focus of my life and passion and my photography, and more recently time-lapse photography. So have I talked too much? I don't know how I started off this conversation talking about a light stand, and now I'm talking about wind shear and thunderstorms. I don't know how that happened. While I am talking here, I'm still reading this wonderful book by Carl Sagan called Contact. I'm well into it now. I read a bit of it every night before I go to bed. I'm really loving it. I've seen the movie, of course, with Jodie Foster. Really like the movie. I've always wanted to get a copy of the book, and I finally jumped in and got it off Amazon. Really good book. Really enjoying it. I've also got this movie which I haven't watched yet. Just bought it the other day when I was in the shop. Apollo 11 movie. Made by NASA. It's like all the archived video footage and audio put together in a movie format to showcase the entire Apollo 11 moon landing in HD, you know, and there's some material on which hasn't been seen before. It's got great reviews, 5 stars, you know, so I'll probably watch that at some night this week. Also NLCs, I've seen 2 NLCs displays this season already. The first one was a faint one, the second one had the first structure of the season. Both of them very nice, but I haven't got the spectacular shows yet. We're a lot of cloud at the minute, but hopefully that'll change soon. But we're in June now, so we're in the prime period for the spectacular NLC displays. NLCs are at their most prolific between June and July, usually. A few weeks either side of the summer solstice. They tend to be more frequent around solar minimum. Their frequency is tied in with the solar cycle. The sun goes through a cycle called the sunspot cycle, which changes every 11 years approximately. So you get like a trough and a peak. With the solar cycle every 11 years, on one end of the scale, solar minimum, there's hardly any sunspots, there's very few solar flares, hardly any aurora. The opposite end of the scale, you get massive sunspots, very complex magnetic fields, a lot of solar flares and CMEs and big aurora displays. At the minute, we're at solar minimum. I have been for a while. NLCs tend to be more prolific during solar minimum, probably because there's less UV light hitting the top of the Earth's atmosphere, which actually helps dissolve up some of these ice crystals or some of these water vapor, which before they turn into ice crystals. NLCs form 82 kilometers high at the top of the Earth's atmosphere, right on the edge of space. That region of the atmosphere is called the mesosphere. And that's where noctilules and clouds, that's where meteors burn up. You're literally on the edge of space right there. So NLCs are the highest clouds on Earth and the most mysterious. They've been visible for a long time. 1800s, absolutely, no question about that. But nobody knows for sure how they came about or when they first started. Most people say that the first person to actually describe noctilules and clouds, document them, was Thomas Backhouse in around about 1885, I believe. He's credited as the first person to document NLCs, but a lot of people don't realise that there's a sighting that predates that observation by Backhouse by about 30 years, if I recall. And the person who did that was actually the third director of Armagh Observatory in Northern Ireland, namely Thomas Romney Robinson. Now Thomas Romney Robinson described what possibly could be NLCs in early May. He described them as strange small clouds. No, he described them as luminous clouds in the northwest, not auroral. They were not aurora, but these were luminous clouds, so they had to be NLCs. They're round about in that time frame, the winter period for them. He has them on record. They're actually visible on the Armagh Observatory meteorological records for that time, and somewhere on the internet there's a photograph of the actual observation he wrote down. I used to have it, but yeah, so a lot of people don't realise that, but Thomas W. Backhouse is not the first person to describe NLCs or to make a record of them. It was actually Thomas Romney Robinson from Armagh Observatory in Northern Ireland. That's very interesting. So Thomas Romney Robinson also invented the wind cup anemometer. For all the storm chasers out there or people who have weather stations, you know, the one with the cups on it rotates around and measures the wind. That's Thomas Romney Robinson. He invented that, so he's credited with that invention as well. So he's quite a marvellous guy. So the point of that is, a lot of people thought that NLCs first appeared after the eruption of the Krakatoa volcano. I think it was somewhere in 1882-83, something like that. Somebody will correct me if I'm just talking off the top of my head here from memory. But NLCs appeared a couple of years after the eruption of that volcano, and was thought back then by many that that volcanic ash went into the atmosphere, and that's what caused these remarkable NLC displays, and hence people started to take notice of the sky more. But nowadays that's pretty much been dismissed. NLCs actually form in the mesosphere, not in the stratosphere. Volcanic ash is ejected into the stratosphere. NLCs are in the mesosphere, which is much higher up. It's very difficult to get volcanic ash to get transported from stratosphere into the mesosphere. It's a massive difference. So there's no mechanism we know of for that. So the idea is, nowadays, it's considered more than likely that NLCs are seeded by extraterrestrial material, and by that I mean meteors. When the meteors enter the Earth's atmosphere, they obviously burn up from friction and heat, and you get these small particles of dust that come off them, and it's these tiny dust particles from meteoroids, that they're smaller than but they're probably around 60 nanometers, something like that. They're about the size of a particle of cigarette smoke. They're tiny, absolutely tiny. There's loads of them burning up in the atmosphere every single year for thousands of years, for millions of years, and they accumulate in the atmosphere. And some of these descend into the mesosphere, and when the mesosphere is cold enough, like it is during the summertime in the northern hemisphere, they become encased in ice crystals. It's because it's so cold. It's minus 100 degrees or more in the mesosphere, so they freeze over and get encased in these ice crystals. And it's these ice crystals which reflect and scatter the midnight sun from mid-northern latitudes and reveal these NLC structures. So NLCs are seeded by extraterrestrial material. They're seeded by dust particles from meteoroids, from asteroids and from comets. And hence you're actually looking at illuminated comet dust. And the comet dust itself, we know comets originated from the beginning of the solar system, which is about 4.5 billion years old. So whenever you see NLCs, you're seeing material that's about 4 or 4.5 billion years old. It's amazing. You're looking at these illuminated clouds, which were formed during the birth of the solar system, before the planets even had time to condense and form, before humans even existed. You're looking at these ancient luminous clouds dominating the twilight sky. They're absolutely incredible. So yes, Thomas Backhouse and Thomas Ronnie Robinson are two people to be credited with that for sure. And if you're interested in that, you can Google them and find out more, or you can contact Armagh Observatory. But the NLC season, we're in the prime season now. I'm hoping we get a clear night soon, we get a big show. Every year produces a great show. Usually get several displays which really stand out. I scored last year with two beautiful displays. I got great time-lapse footage from them. So I'm hoping we get treated this year to something special too. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's the plan. I'm also hoping to be storm chasing soon. There's some Cape tomorrow. It's a very small amount, it's not a big deal, but there's enough to get a few updrafts going, so you never know. We're going to be watching for funnel clouds. This Saturday and possibly next week, the charts are playing with the idea of thunderstorms, elevated storms, and possibly surface-based thunderstorms. So for the first time, what seems like a long time, I'm hoping to get storm chasing. So I'll keep you updated on that one. So keep an eye on my YouTube channel, keep an eye on my website, nightskyhunter.com, and I'll update if anything exciting happens. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you all for listening to this vlog, for me just talking here randomly about things. It's kind of just a gap filler in the meantime to figure out what my next vlog is going to be about. I'm hoping maybe to do some of these out on location some stage, you know, if there's time, set up a camera and talk into it out in the field or near the coast, you know, and get a bit of a chat going and maybe document my time lapses and the storm chases. That's pretty cool. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I appreciate everybody watching these videos and for your support and for your positive comments. So thanks very much.